back, welcome in, and welcome all to the Like That podcast. Episode 14 now, with your host as always, myself, Nico. Got Brooklyn on the other side. No Nick this week. A little busy with the holiday schedules, which it's been a little while. We're a little bit, we're far, a little bit later in the week than we typically are when uploading, but due to just how the holidays fell this calendar year, it's been a little chaotic. But with that being said, Brooklyn, how were your holidays?
Christmas, Christmas itself, always a great time. When you're getting gifts, like how can you not be excited? And with and a pick of the week on two picks of the week on Christmas Day, was excited for some football, and we got some in the version of the 4 p.m. game, or sorry, the 1 p.m. game with Dallas, and that was it. So Christmas came and ended right after the 1 p.m. game ended, because God, that was an awful rest of like NFL day. That 1 p.m. game, but Christmas itself, it was nice, and always a nice little relaxation type of time. This is my favorite holiday. I would say for most people, it probably is the same, but this is my favorite holiday of all of them, just because people just tend to be happier.
Everybody's just getting gifts. They're maybe not like you're watching Christmas movies. It's a good aesthetic. And then you had New Year's Eve. A little suddenly we are in 2026 now. New year, new us on the spreadsheets. No more pick of the weeks flopping. There's motivation now, as if there wasn't already.
Huge.
Yeah, if we talk about last week, what a not my favorite week to recap, but picks of the week, like you said. I mean, Christmas Day was bad for Nick and I. We both went 0-3. Favorites last week were not friends of ours. And then not to mention we go no paper bags this week because we've done it twice over. It's too painful, but yeah, another 0 for 3 week on picks for the week with Tampa not hitting.
It's like physically painful. I can't breathe when I got that thing like covering my face. Like,
it's annoying, but that's also kind of how I feel when I watch Quinn Ewers destroy the Tampa defense and Baker throws 2 picks against this Dolphins defense that's been horrific. Bullshit.
yeah, that's how I feel when I see Jared Goff and the Lions take the field against Max Brosmer, and it's almost like Max Brosmer was actually on the Lions, because like holy shit, that was so unbelievably abysmal in every single way, by the Lions. And like I said, I'm not gonna call them a bad team, but wow, they did not show up whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, 3 consecutive drives of a pick, or 3 consecutive drives of turnovers, with 2 of those happening on the first set of downs, is just crazy.
And
Uh,
you lose to a Max Brosmer who put up 51 passing yards.
and which was, I can't even just the game. It just brings me back to bad memories.
Wasted 3 hours of my life. I'll never get that back.
I shut it off at halftime. I couldn't do it. I was like, this is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. Same thing with I mean, the Dallas game. At least Dallas, like, that was a good game to watch. But the following 2 on Christmas, you want to talk about getting coal in your stocking? I mean, the Vikings Lions game was just so bad, and then you follow that up with the Kansas City Denver matchup, which somehow was worse. I mean, I don't know which matchup you actually enjoyed more, but I
Honestly, I enjoyed Kansas City more because like I thought Chris Olave was gonna get kind of picked apart by Denver, but I mean he didn't break 100 passing yards, whatever. Like it was a QB3 type of game, but they only lost by 7 points. Like that was a closer game than I ever anticipated. And I know the Chiefs' defense is respectable, but they didn't have Trent McDuffie. There's a lot of things that I didn't think were gonna go Kansas City's way that kind of did. They kept that close, and
you did
I
pick them in
mean,
the spreadsheet.
watching I did, and to lose within or to lose within 2 touchdowns, I'd do that again. But watching both of those games, if you watched all of them through, which I unfortunately did, is pretty much like raw dogging like a 24-hour flight. Like it was painful. Like and there was action happening, but just it was still just as boring. Just staring at the back of someone's seat on an airplane.
That I have made an effort to watch at least one part of almost every NFL game that I've been able to do so. And I had every power in me to put on that Denver Chiefs game, and I just didn't. I mean, I was already like, again, I missed on the first 2 bets of the day. I'm already mad. I've seen bad football, and I was like, I can do better than watch Bo Nix play football. I can go watch Stranger Things or something, which had,
Yeah, I was gonna say you texted me. I was like, "Yeah, you're watching the game tonight." And you're like, "No, I'm watching Stranger Things. I don't think I need to watch that game." And I was like, "That's so fair."
yeah, I mean, Denver was supposed to take care of business. And I mean, they won the game, but 13 and a half. Yeah, I mean, I just, I can't talk more shit about Bo Nix after a win. So we'll hold it for the playoff loss, the first round exit. Then Bo Nix gets all of it. But looking at the spreadsheet, another very interesting thing to point out for us is between myself, Brooklyn, and Nick, we are all separated by one pick apart. I am leading at 93, Brooklyn at 92, or Nick at 92, Brooklyn at 91. So going into Week 18, I know we're going to count it for the playoffs as well, but if a regular season trophy matters to you, this is it. This is endgame. We're into Week 18. Also, how does it feel like being in Week 18? We've had such a long. Recording the podcast now, it makes the season feel longer than it is. But I'm sad. This is our last episode for a while. That's going to be talking about 32 teams.
In some ways, I am kind of sad. In some other ways, I think some of these games have been some of these matchups are so entertainingly bad. But playoffs. So I think playoffs this year is going to be really competitive. Like, I know it's playoffs every year. It's supposed to be competitive. But I think this is going to be one of the better playoffs that we've seen in a while. Like, if you haven't noticed from every game that we get, every week, like there's been, I don't know if you've seen like the montages, like every single game or every single week there has been a game that you could be like, this could be the game of the year.
Yeah.
Several candidates just throughout the whole entire season, like week by week. And if you take some of that talent, now you're putting the best teams into the playoffs. I think there's really going to be a good shot to make this one of the more, I'd say, entertaining playoffs in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think last week, I think your game of the week or game of the year candidate was definitely that Chicago San Fran game. Absolute shootout that it was, and it wasn't like one team got so vastly ahead of the other. It was like 7-7, 14-7, 14-14.
It was tit for tat, yeah.
It was crazy. And then what happens? I take Bears money line in the fourth quarter, the beginning of the fourth quarter, and that sucked.
Oh, you did that too?
That sucked. Yeah, I did. I didn't even. Yeah, I know we didn't coordinate that at all. But I was like, oh, you know what? Like tie game going into the fourth, plus 100 odds. Like I'm gonna take the value there.
Yeah, and I told you about my little lotto lay. I was requiring a DJ Moore touchdown at some point throughout the game. I made this before, and DJ Moore, a guy who's gotten multiple touchdowns over the last couple of weeks. Like I was like, hey, bad 49ers defense there. Odds if he pulls one in, I think are decent for any time, and out of 38 points put up, not a single one was by DJ Moore. So,
yeah, there was a lot of heartbreak last week. Like both, the podcast didn't hit well. I was in 3 fantasy championships, and I only walked out with 1. And there were some frustrating things. Juwan Jennings made me want to pull out my hair for most of that game. Like you're talking about 40 points scored, and if he didn't have that touchdown, it would have made my week so much worse than it was. And then I had the unfortunate scenario of facing Bijan in the finals, and that just. You want to talk about demoralizing? Like the championship round in fantasy was over before the second half of Monday Night Football, and there was just no hope. I had Drake London in 2 of those matchups. My team name was named Champagne Poppies based off of Drake London, and when I need him most, he gives me 1 catch for 4 yards. Just pain. I was just in so much pain last week, but it's 2026. That's all behind me now. We're into bigger and better, and I was just going to say. With that said, let's jump into the week. But still, one more thing I want to mention here is, as you know, most of these episodes have been us breaking down spreadsheets and such. And with the NFL playoffs starting, you're going to see a lot of different content. You're going to see things. We're going to break down each playoff game. But with the NBA season around the corner, that's something that's going to be starting to get projected into. So it's going to be a little bit of a different dynamic, and I think that starts with this episode because we're keeping it a little bit lighter than normal. A lot of rapid fires. Really, just going to be talking about some of the main games of the week and what we think are our picks of the week. So with that all being said, now we jump into it. No Thursday football this week, as we know, because we're recording on a day past Thursday. But as we're recording, we got football on Saturday. We've got a 4:30 matchup that is going to decide who makes up the playoffs between Carolina and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay -3 in this matchup, and such a crazy scenario for Tampa to be -3. I mean, a team that's on an 8-game losing streak is still favored. Also, their longest losing streak since the 1980s. Meanwhile, you have the Panthers, who all 8 of their wins have come as underdogs. Not only that, they're the most popular underdog moneyline bet placed this week. And, not too long ago, we're talking 4 days before Christmas, these 2 teams faced off, and Carolina wins by 3 points. So, as dumb as it sounds, looking at the board, and, you see, again, Carolina, they've done great as dogs. Tampa on an 8-game losing streak, and I took them to win last week. And I'm backing down. I'm staying with Tampa here. You know, I think Carolina, like, yes, they played better ball as of late, but I just don't think they're a playoff team. It's a dumb way to say that, but the Bucks offense, like the Bucks as a whole this year, I think once you got to like week 8, you saw like really things start to derail when it came to different injury problems, the defense just really not being there. But I think that being at home in a must-win game with, if you're gonna ask me what quarterback I'd rather have, it's gonna be Baker Mayfield here. So I'm confident in Tampa.
It's hard to support the Buccaneers right now, especially like with the streak that they're on, But I went with Carolina here, as did Nick. Just to me, with the way that the teams are playing, I just haven't been impressed at all. From what I've seen from Tampa Bay recently, especially losing to the Dolphins last week was just like a cherry on top of how just kind of wishy-washy that defense has been all year. To be honest, I think Carolina's been playing some of their better football as of recently. I think that's pretty obvious, but that all that momentum comes and carries into this game. It's going to be, I think there's going to be some rain tomorrow, and if that is a big factor, like I don't think that the Buccaneers' rushing game has necessarily been any good recently. Bucky Irving hasn't done much of anything. I think that the market's kind of leaning too much in favor of that the Buccaneers do have a lot of talent on that team, but there hasn't really just been much of anything coming out of that, coming out of that unit really to make me think that they're going to be any better than Carolina. So I'm going to go with the healthier team, the team that has a little bit more chemistry together, and honestly, the team that's on a better roll recently. And I'm going to go with the Panthers +3.
Yeah, I mean for me it comes down to a couple different things, but I think that like my player to watch in this game that is going to kind of change it is Bucky Irving, like you said. I mean, since he's come back, he hasn't had a game where he's averaged over 4 yards per carry. And if you account for just the Bucks struggling to get the run game together, I mean that kind of leads to not being able to put together nice drives, and you struggle against a Miami defense. And Carolina, they do allow a lot to the running back position. So if Bucky gets going early, then yeah, I think the Bucks have a pretty good shot at this.
And my player to watch, gonna go with Tet here. Going up against Tampa Bay last time they played, he got a touchdown, 73 yards receiving, and head coach. I'm blanking on the head coach name of the Panthers for that team. But Dave something, right?
Dave Canales.
Yeah, Dave Canales. He made it a point to let the media know that, and honestly, just let it be known that like Tet is the main focal point of that offense, and that going to a team like Seattle, that defense is obviously going to give you a lot of trouble. And he said, going into this week and then forward from this point on, like they're going to do their best to keep Tet as that primary role in their offense. So I look for Tet to have a big week against a Buccaneers defense that has just shown time and time again that they're just not a solid unit this year. So +3 Panthers, got to get Tet involved. I think this, and especially in a must-win game, should be set up for a lot of volume.
And I know Nick's not here, but can you press that button?
I can press the button. I don't know how it's going to be on your side, but how loud?
We got a pick of the week.
Desperately looking to get back on the board here, man. I've been so hungry for a pick of the week to finally hit again. We're going to go right into the Saturday primetime game here. Big matchup between Seattle and San Francisco. Niners going to take this one at home. Niners currently +2.5. We're going to go with Seattle, currently at -2.5. Now, I actually did take Seattle -2.5 last night when it was still +100 odds. Yeah, plus. What?
You're saying Seattle? No, Seattle's dogs.
Seattle's not dogs.
Oh, I'm wrong. Oh my God.
You are.
Oops. Sorry, as you were.
Seattle last night, it opened at -1.5 for Seattle, and to this point has gone up to -2.5. I did take it at +100 last night while it was still plus value. First things first, it's you can't ignore the run that the 49ers are on right now. Purdy has looked exceptional as of late, but the one thing that doesn't make me convinced about that team, well, aside from how many injuries they're battling through, is really the teams that they have beaten. Right, it's been a Brock Purdy led offense, but honestly, a 49ers team that hasn't really gone up against the craziest competition. On a streak of wins, absolutely. You just knocked off Chicago last week, but before that, Indianapolis. I mean, Philip Rivers put up a good fight of his own, 27 against a defense that we've also known has been injured the entire time. Led up 24 against Tennessee. Cleveland offense is not much of a factor, and then 20 against Carolina, which is not that great of a defense either. You know, not sold at all on the 49ers, especially with the injuries that they're battling. We saw C-Mac start to slow down towards the end of the Bears game. You know, he kind of grinded through some injuries. Offensive line has been a little bit banged up as well. George Kittle questionable. You know, I think that with all this going into this game, Seattle's both the healthier team, but also the more well-rounded team. Seattle's got a defense, a top 5 defense at that. Against the spread for that record on the road, by the way, 7-1 against the spread on the road, and 5-1 as road favorites. Seattle also puts up 32.5 points per game against bottom 15 defenses. Flows right into the hands of this game now, with the Niners just having a defense that just keeps getting lit up by good teams. Now, if you're looking at that defense, they've allowed a 28 points per game against teams that are over 500. So this is going to be a game like, you know, you can talk all the glory about Shanahan as you want. I do technically, honestly think that Seattle has the mismatch over San Francisco this week. Purdy's going to have a big test in front of him, one of the toughest defenses he's played in a while, versus Seattle team that puts up a lot of points against bad defenses. So one last thing, big chance to secure the top seed in the NFC if you didn't already know. That Seattle defense allows right around 18 points per game. So don't think we're going to see the same production out of the 49ers this week. I'm taking Seattle to win by a field goal.
For me in this game, I mean, I'm on Seattle as well, but it's like the tale of two opposites when you talk about these guys fighting for the 1 seed. Like, I love Seattle's defense, but the offense in the last couple weeks is, like, you know, questioned if they are really that top dog in the NFC. Whereas for the 49ers, I think it's the exact opposite. Like, I think this defense, you know, ever since the Fred Warner injury, it really did take a step back. And again, we saw it on Monday night with Chicago. You ended up winning that game, but there aren't too many instances where you're going to let up over 35 points and still end up walking away with it. So while I always say it's tough to bet against Shanahan, I do think that this is going to be, again, like you said, like one of their tougher matches that they've faced in a little bit. And yeah, you took care of business against Chicago, but I think the Seattle team is better than Chicago, and they're healthier, like you said. The defense is better. I'm just repeating what you're saying, but long story short, I think that the Seattle has a great game, but especially with that, I think that, you know, last couple of weeks I've been saying that people are going to go nuclear. Like, you know, I said Saquon, I said Jamar Chase, but realistically, if the Seahawks do win this game, it's going to be through a lot of JSN.
I mean, no doubt JSN's going to have his day against a defense like that.
Like, I'm saying like 30 bomb. Like, fantasy points are over, but, you know, like, I think that he's going to have over 100 receiving, if that's an easier way to say it.
I think that's absolutely in play for a game like this, where we just saw various. I mean, Loveland had a day against that Niners defense, and JSN is more than a Loveland, right? You're saying he's going to go nuclear?
Yeah, so JSN's current line is at, I just saw the hold up here. His line's currently at 98.5. I would take that as high as, you know, again, if I think he's going nuclear, like I say, I think he's going to have easily over 125.
DFS projections have him at 99 yards. Yards per reception around 13.8. That's kind of crazy.
I mean, he's going to be utilized in so many different ways. He's a guy that you could put out there as a deep threat. You could put him in the slot. But, you know, this is a game that I think the run might not be the exact way Seattle needs it to go. And the way that when they've won in dominant fashion, it's through JSN.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm going to go with a Seahawk too, and it's going to be a guy that Nick and I really love to take on at any time. A.J. Barner, you know, we've seen him step up a lot as of recently against the Rams, against Carolina, logged a touchdown in both of those games. I think that this is a game where it's either going to be, if JSN isn't the primary factor, which he should be, either a big A.J. Barner game or a big Rashid Shaheed game. I'm going to go with Barner here, with a guy who's gotten a little bit more consistency in volume, but either one of these guys is definitely prone to have the day.
Yeah, and honestly, I think we're gonna hold off on the picks of the week buttons because, like I said, we're gonna be going through this a little bit quicker than normal. So we've only got 3 games left that we're gonna kind of cover in a little bit more detail before we get to the rapid fire round. So you might, I don't want to spam that button a little too much. We'll save it for when it's nicer out. But going to Nick's pick of the week here, and that's going to be the Battle of Ohio, Cleveland and Cincinnati, taking Cincinnati -7.5. Kind of been Nick's good luck charm this year. He's done well with betting in favor of Cincinnati, but this Cleveland team, they're 2-3 against the spread in their last 5. The interesting thing to note for Cleveland in this game is that Myles Garrett is half a sack away from the record, and against this Bengals defense, I mean that's just, I mean, the Bengals O line specifically, that's one of your best scenarios you're gonna get. Meanwhile, for Cincinnati, they after a shutout, they've scored 45 and 37 points in back-to-back weeks. Almost 1,000 combined yards of offense in those 2 weeks. I mean, absolutely destroyed the Dolphins 2 weeks back. And surprisingly enough, the defense is averaging nearly 2 takeaways a game. I'll shout out Nick for all that info there. Chase Brown dealing with with an illness, but he should be suiting up. The tight ends for the Browns look a little beat up. It looks like Njoku's probably not going to play. Fannon's going to be a game time decision, and those have kind of been Shedur's like go-to guys there. So top target out. Joe Burrow's been slinging it. Nick loves Cincinnati -7.5.
I am so hesitant to go against the Cleveland defense now, seeing how they kind of held Buffalo really very much in check. Now you could say what you want about Jamar Chase, and absolutely, that's something that could take this 7.5 and make it cover. And honestly, between Burrow kind of being back now, and that Bengals team finding they're picking up some steam late. But I think just taking any team against the Browns over a touchdown right now is a little risky. And with that O line being really nothing to brag about, Garrett being this close to the record, I think that there's going to be so much pressure in Burrow's face, and Garrett's going to give 110% to get that number down. So I'm hesitant to take the -7.5 just because I think that defense is going to play as hard as they can to just close the season out, and Garrett's definitely going to make it a big factor that he's there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad that we're shitting on Nick without him being here because his pick of the week we're both on the other side of, which I don't know how many times there's been a play like that where pick of the week the other two are both been in disagreement. I think I had one earlier
About
this
4
week.
or 5 of them.
But yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I think Shedur's played some pretty decent football the last couple weeks. He has a couple plays where you're like, oh my Shedur, come on, stop set. Like he had a pick last week against Pittsburgh that really was just a terrible decision to throw the ball. He struggled at points to kind of, again, deciding when to throw the ball, when not to, and taking some pretty tough sacks. But I think this is a really good matchup for him. That Cleveland defense has done enough to keep them in games, like you said. And with this large of a spread, facing the Cincinnati defense that has been pretty generous to most offenses in the league, I think that the Browns kind of work off the momentum that they still have. So if you're listening, Nick, we're sorry, but roll Shedur. Perfect timing.
Now, do you take going into next season? Who's your quarterback?
If you don't draft somebody, I think it's Shedur. I think you maybe you get a more established backup, like you sign like Marcus Mariota just in case shit hits the fan. But
Dylan Gabriel, what are you doing with him?
I think realistically, the hit rate on quarterbacks that don't get taken in the first round is so slim. And when you look at the numbers between Gabriel and Sanders, they're pretty similar, and they're not good numbers either, mind you. But Sanders, I think he does one thing better than Gabriel, and that's just the deep ball. Gabriel really does not have that type of arm, and you've seen it with Shedur starting that there is at least like some type of hope for a big play. Whereas with Gabriel, you were just relying heavily on just everything close to the line of scrimmage. So I don't know. I kind of like Shedur. I've got a sweet spot for underdogs. Whenever a guy just gets started to get so much hate, I kind of root for him to kind of shut everybody up. And I think it'd be a perfect story for Shedur. He goes into the draft thinking he's going to be this top guy, ends up falling so much farther than everybody would have thought, and not only fell but was drafted into a team that drafted a quarterback ahead of him in that same draft. So I think the story's cool, and I've been enjoying seeing him play.
Yeah, I agree. I feel bad like when watching Shador just kind of slide down, and then in fact he's getting like pranked by people calling him be like, "Yo, it's the Saints. How would you like to be drafted on us?" Or how how do you want to be drafted by us? He's like, "Oh, it'll be a blessing." You're like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer." It was
That's got
it's
to
a
be one of the
fucking
worst
prank call.
things.
Oh, that was crazy. Yeah, I don't mind seeing Shador succeed. I know he had a bit of an ego at Colorado, but I think that if he can develop, that would be a cool story to watch out for. My player to watch though for this game is gonna be Jerry Judy. If Finn and if those injuries do plague that offense for Cleveland, he did start to get a little bit of volume against that Steelers defense last week, and I think that with him still technically being the wide receiver one on that depth chart. As Shador gets a little bit more comfortable against a bad defense, Judy could possibly find himself in the end zone next week. So
Yeah, I mean, no spoilers here. I mean, it's funny just for the amount of praise that we just gave him, but yeah, I like Shador in this spot. I've got a
I
funny.
thought that was the explanation.
No, we were just glazing Shador, but no, he's my player to watch, baby. Spoiler alert, he is one of my prop players this week for our props at the end of the week, but I'm not going to talk about what it is just yet. But he's in a really good opportunity. If there was fantasy football this week and you needed a quarterback, I would start Sanders with full confidence. But with that being said, again, only 4 games that or 5 games total that we're talking about, and we're already at number 4. My pick of the week is going to be the Rams at home, -8.5 against the Cardinals. I don't think much of that Monday night loss to the Falcons. We've on this podcast, I feel like I've said the exact sentence of like the Falcons defense was really good to start the year, kind of hit a little bit of a shaky spot, but they forced Stafford to make mistakes, which that the D line was really getting to Stafford. I don't know if I've seen a game where he's had to move that much and he's taken that many sacks. And between that and the turnovers, it got out of hand pretty quick. But let's not act like that game wasn't still a one-possession game. Meanwhile, for Arizona, Jacoby Brissett, since being named the starter, has not won a game. They've gone 0-8. They've lost by a margin of almost 16 points per game. So I think a couple of things that I took into consideration for this as well was the public's betting, like what we've already known from what I've seen online. And a couple of the analysts on Twitter, I kind of, for a lot of my picks, ended up fading the public. But to my surprise, the Rams weren't in the top 10 on most bet teams. So I guess the public saw that Monday night game and was like, oh, Bijan Robinson destroyed this team. But, I disagree. I think this Rams team is still very much a top competitor in the NFC. And they've got a good matchup, again, at home versus Arizona. I think 8.5 is, it's my lock, baby.
Honestly, I'm leaning with you there. For a minute, you were like, I don't think much of that loss, and I was like, whoa, what? Like they just got kind of not wiped, but let up 27 points to an Atlanta team playing for nothing. But the more I thought about it, like you didn't just like lose to the Falcons, like like that in its own right is not great for them. And Stafford did have probably his worst game. Maybe was Carolina his worst game, or do you think this was?
I wouldn't. I would probably give the Carolina game because I think a lot of this game he spent like on the run, like the O line just kind of like fell under him.
Yeah, but for this game, the more I thought about it, like he got beat by the guys on the Falcons that you would be getting beat by if that ever went that way, right? That pass defense was pretty decent for a majority of the beginning of the season, and then other than that, you got lit up by Bijan. That's their guy. So it's not like you let up like 2 touchdowns to David Sills. Like Bijan killed you the entire game, and that defense
Or like
did what it was
Drake
supposed to.
London, that would have been cool.
Yeah, it's not like you let anything up to Drake London. But I think that if they lost to the team that they were supposed to lose to. And honestly, I don't think too much about that Rams loss either. I think that was just a showing of, them losing to the team by the guys that they were supposed to. So definitely still a powerhouse in the NFC. Nothing too crazy. I like them to win by 7.5 here too. I don't think the Cardinals really have much to offer.
8.5.
Oh yeah.
I don't think this game's gonna be close. I know like it's gonna be a script of the Rams get ahead early. Brissett's gonna have to sling the rock a little too much, and one of those is gonna lead to a turnover in some capacity. My player to watch of this game, it's gonna be somebody in that Rams running back room. I put Blake Corum as of right now. Both Corum, Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams, they're all listed as questionables. But if the script goes the way that I think that the Rams take control of this game pretty well. and I think that they're going to split the carries more than anything. It's week 18. It's a weird week for props, but I think Corum's going to have a good game just for the opportunity that he's going to get.
And I'm going to go here with one of the tight ends, one of the 3 tight ends that tends to be involved in this Rams offense, of course, with Higbee still being, well, I think he's actually been upgraded to questionable. But I want to go Terrence Ferguson. Either between him and Parkinson, it's kind of like hard to guess which one's going to have a better week. But, if the Rams do kind of get out to a good start here, I expect them to pull back a little bit on going too crazy with Stafford. But even then, I think if Ferguson gets his reps and see as a rookie that they want to keep involved, could find himself, getting some good red zone targets here. So going to go Ferguson here. Yeah.
And then our last matchup of the night, Sunday Night Football. We have another divisional game, another game that's going to decide the playoffs. We have Baltimore at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, even at home, plus 4.5. They're not going to be with DK because he smacked a fan. Funny that I had, the only place to put that's in the injury report. But this game was by far my most difficult to pick, as dumb as it may sound. I mean, the Steelers, they may not have looked like the prettiest team on offense, but I'm kind of done betting against them. They found ways to win games. Mike Tomlin as underdogs versus Baltimore has gone 14-4-2 against the spread. And the Ravens, they haven't done enough to really deserve 4.5. I know you have Lamar Jackson back there, and I know Derrick Henry took care of business entirely last week for you, but I still think there's a lot to question about this offense, and not only the health of it, but just the overall strength. I think that if you put Baltimore in a position to throw, they're not going to be able to get themselves out of these games. So I took Pittsburgh as an underdog here. But I know you're on the other side of this.
It is a hard game for me to predict too, because obviously Lamar Jackson's health is going to be the key for that quarterback position. But like what we just saw happen at Green Bay with the fact that you got Tyler Huntley at the quarterback the entire game, and I think overall that Green Bay defense to me is a bit better than the Steelers. I can't really put my faith in a non-DK, non-really offensively dominant Steelers team. And if Derrick Henry is possibly finding his rhythm right now in the most important game for their season, like I don't know, man. I can't see this game really. I think the Ravens Ravens either kick ass and win by more than 4.5, or the Steelers just win outright. And I think it's going to be more on the side of that Ravens offense is probably going to dominate the Steelers. I can't put my money on the Steelers knowing that they've just been they only put up 6 points against the Browns. Granted, the Browns are the Browns, but you got to expect a lot more against a team that's going to be probably trying to go punch for punch here.
The one thing that kind of kept me on that wanted me to pick Baltimore in this game, and it's so dumb because it means nothing, but the Steelers are 9-7. They're the joke of Mike Tomlin, like can he beat the curse? Can he finish with double-digit wins, or is he just gonna the streets want the Steelers to lose so that the Steelers could be 9-8, and then the prophecy is intact. But I don't have enough faith in Baltimore, man. I'm sorry. The pass catchers have not been there, and yeah, I get the game last week wasn't the prettiest, but you're at home, and we've time and time again we've counted out the Steelers team, and they've come and shown business. Plus, for how close I think this game is going to be, I don't even think I have full confidence in Pittsburgh winning. But it being down to a field goal, I think I'm going to take I'm going to take Pittsburgh with that 1.5 point cushion.
That's fair enough. I mean, I'm riding the hot hand of Henry's momentum after last week. I feel like that's the game he's been waiting for all year. And if that's going to propel them into this game, like you get a Lamar back, who's pretty much going to give it all for this rest of the season, knowing that you lose, you got the whole offseason to recover. I think Baltimore's got too good of a chance to win this right now, being I think the more talented team.
The way that we have seen the Steelers offense work, when it is moving at its best, it's through Kenneth Gainwell. Funny enough, I mean, between him and oh my God, this is so bad, Jaylen Warren. Oh my God. But between the two running backs, that kind of has been the entire offense for them. So I think in the script of where Pittsburgh is keeping this game close, and they do cover that spread, Gainwell does have a very solid performance.
Oh, with Derrick Henry. I mean, how can you not when you're looking at the Ravens in terms of their offense? Like, Zay Flowers in his own right has been okay, I guess. Overall, he has been the only passing option, really. Rashad Bateman hasn't done much of anything, which is kind of crazy. I feel like I see him randomly go off throughout the season, but I haven't really seen it this year. But Derrick Henry, I mean, dominant through the last couple of weeks, and especially what I just saw against Green Bay last week, historic. Like, that was just insane. Like I knew that Derrick Henry is going to have the biggest role in that offense last week. Never did I think he was going to have a 200-yard game and 4 touchdowns. Going to go with that same momentum now here. This is a game where I think that they're probably going to try to play to just their strengths and limit the amount of times that Pittsburgh is really going to be able to see the ball. And I think that comes with a lot of just like running it with Henry and then playing success on the ground. But I think Baltimore's defense is a little just weak in general. But I like Derrick Henry to keep that momentum up into this week.
Now, probably the longest rapid fire round you will ever see from this show. We've got close to like 11 games here, so I'm not gonna go too quick, so it's not too confusing. But at the same time, I'm gonna start flying through them. Big stretch, crack everything. I don't know if that came up on the mic, but a little ASMR bone cracking there. But let's get right into it. Indianapolis at Houston, -10. Riley Leonard starting for the Colts. Common theme you're going to see from me is I'm fading the public, and I am not on board with double-digit spreads for most of these games. And this is going to be another one. -10, or I'm going to take Indy at +10. And even though I do have Ka'imi Fairbairn as my player to watch for the Texans. Moving forward, we've got Tennessee at Jacksonville, -13.5. Titans team that's played pretty good as of late. Give credit where credit's due, man. At the beginning of the year, I really despised this team, and they've kind of showed that they are a football team. So I'm going to take them at +13.5. I know Jacksonville needs to win this game, but 14 points is a lot. Dallas at the Giants. The Giants suck, man, and they're fighting for the first overall pick. They shouldn't win this game. I don't think they cover. Let's go. Dallas has won 9 straight versus the Giants, by the way. And I think that this is another George Pickens big game. I know he has a couple things with when it comes to money wise and his contract incentives, so I think he does well. Green Bay at Minnesota. We don't know who's going to be the quarterback for Green Bay in this game. It could be Malik Willis. It could be Clayton Tune. It could be Desmond Ridder, who they just signed. -9.5. I still am not taking J.J. McCarthy to cover by almost double digits. I don't care who's back there for Green Bay. One of them is going to figure it out. And I don't think that it's going to be through the air. Josh Jacobs, I don't know how much he's going to play in this game. So I'm going to take Emmanuel Wilson to maybe have a little sneaky game here. Moving forward, we've got Saints at Falcons. Falcons -3.5. A Saints team that has done really well as of late. Winners of 4 outright, 5 against the spread. But maybe Bijan stole my soul, and I have to root for him in this way. But the Falcons defense is going to be the best defense that the Saints have not faced in almost 2 months. Dolphins at the Patriots, -11.5. You'd think I'd be on New England, right? I am not. I mean, Miami, they covered last week. I think 11.5 again. It's so steep, and I thought Ewers was not going to move the ball at all, and they found ways to. So I'm going to take Miami to cover here. Then we have the Jets at the Bills. Bills -7.5. This is one where I'm just going to take the heavy favorite. The Jets might be the worst team in the league right now, if that's not, even if that's a conversation. And I think John Mechie is going to have, Brady Cook's going to have to throw to somebody. Mechie's going to be that guy. Chargers at Denver, -12.5. Herbert's not playing. That's why this line is so large. But Denver sucks at covering the spread. We're talking about 2-9 as favorites this year, and that's a lot. So I'm taking the Chargers at +12.5. Another game that really doesn't mean too much. Commanders at Eagles. No Jalen Hurts, but it's still only at 4.5, and I'm going to take the Eagles still at -4.5. And I think Devonta Smith is going to have a good game because he's close to 1,000 yards, and I think they're going to kind of force feed him a little bit there. Lions at Bears. Bears -3. I know the loss last week was so bad for the Lions, but I'm going to stand with them here. It just makes sense. The Bears have been so good, but let's again, outside of this, last week, the Lions are 14-2 against the spread after a loss. I think it improves to 15-2, and I think Jared Goff helps with that and has a very good game. And then last on the board, everybody's favorite matchup, the Chiefs versus the Raiders. Kenny Pickett versus Chris Aludakun. And I am going to take the Chiefs here at -5.5. It's so gross. It's so ugly. But the Raiders are 2-12 at home in their last 2 seasons. being the last game of the year, maybe being Travis Kelce's last game of his career, I think he's going to be force-fed, and he's going to have a good game.
I could see Kelsey getting force fed. I am with you on the spreadsheet there. Yeah, you always make that look so smooth, man.
I appreciate that.
All right, well, back to the top we go. Starting back at Indianapolis, Indiana Pacers versus Indianapolis versus Houston. I can't have many expectations for Riley Leonard if he's starting this game. I mean, I'm sure the Texans wanted to send Phillip Rivers packing into his second retirement right into this game. But with that being said, I'm going to take Houston -10 here. I think that defense is just something that, unless you're an experienced quarterback, you're not set to have a good day. So unless you're going to lean heavily on the run game or something here, even then that's not going to work. I just don't see how Indianapolis really puts up much of a fight. Houston -10 here. My player to watch, though, going to be Tyler Warren, going to be a Colt. Frankly, because if it's Riley Leonard with the ball, it's going to be scared as hell. I think that's going to be, quick dished out to one of his bigger targets there. So taking Tyler Warren, I know he's kind of had a disappointing slump recently, but I still like Houston to win that by double digits. Jacksonville, Tennessee. I actually did just switch over to Tennessee for the reason of that the Titans have been playing football recently. They had a big win against the Chiefs. Granted, that wasn't really that much of a competitive Chiefs game, but nevertheless, a team like the Titans taking down that defense, something to watch. New Orleans, they put up a very good fight. And yeah, Shock's been in rhythm here. So to me, that they were able to keep up with there. I know I took Tennessee on the spreadsheet last week, but if Tennessee does lose this game, I don't think it's going to be nearly in the same fashions that we saw to start the year. My player to watch are going to be Brenton Strange, going to go be for Jacksonville. Guy who's been a pretty reliable tight end target there for them recently, has gotten some red zone targets, gotten some touchdowns. Do think that he's going to have a good chance to have another day against a defense like the Titans, but I don't think that they lose within 14 or I think they lose within 14. Giants versus Dallas. I mean, this is an easy one. Like, if you're taking the Giants, like you got to have like $1 left in your account, and you're making a lotto with that spread. But Dallas, that offense has been so potent all year. There's no reason you should ever bet against them to not cover something that's within, to me, a touchdown against a team that's like the Giants. And yes, they are going for that number one pick. To me, this might be a Giants, another dart 31-yard game, but on purpose. Player to watch there. I went for Flournoy last week for the Cowboys, and he was ruled out come game time. I'm going to go with him here. I know Dak and a bunch of those offensive pieces are not going to be playing pretty much the entire game, and I think that Flournoy is a good guy to still see on the field once everyone clears out. Also, again, like I said last week, he is a guy that when he's in gets a decent amount of red zone targets and a lot of plays that go his way. So I'm gonna go there. Cowboys -3.5 or 4.5 is it now? No. Yes, 3.5 with Ryan Flournoy as my player to watch. Moving on, Green Bay, Minnesota. This was one I'm gonna give to Green Bay just because I think that Minnesota offense, just if they don't have J.J. McCarthy in, even if they do, it's bad, and that Green Bay defense has something to prove now, getting just run all over by Derrick Henry. But the only problem is, Minnesota doesn't have Derrick Henry. They have an inconsistent J.J. McCarthy at best, and then they have a bad Max Brosmer. I don't care that they won that game. You put up 50 yards passing, that doesn't mean anything. So I like Green Bay here to cover within the 10, and honestly, I can't see that Minnesota, has a margin that big. I just think Green Bay is a little bit more impressive than the books are giving credit for here. Player to watch, though, is going to be Jettis. I think that in the last game of the year for the Vikings, where they got nothing to play for, you got to see Jettis get something, right? Week by week, you're wondering if this is the one where he finally has the game. I'm gonna go for it to be this last one. Taking my chance one final time on him for shits and giggles almost. Moving on, New Orleans versus Atlanta. This one, I believe I went at Atlanta -3.5. Awesome performance for them, just overall, to come on top, or to come out on top against the Rams. I think there's a lot of momentum moving in their favor. Another home game too. Shock's going to have one of his bigger challenges, like Nico said, with that defense being one of the better ones that they've played this year. This one, we talk about, why do you pick the common player to be the player to watch? Why wouldn't you go with Bijan here? I mean, the game he just had and going into this game, like, why don't you think he's going to be the guy I'm going to go with? There's no other option. Drake London hasn't done anything, and Olave for the Saints is really it. That's it. I mean, Nico and Juwan Johnson, but there's not many players you would want to keep your tabs on. Going now to New England versus Miami. New England, with a crazy performance against the Jets last week, covering that spread minus 13.5 and some. Like, Patriots have been in sync. That offense has been on fire all season long, and I don't, I think that Miami game we just saw against Tampa Bay was a bit of a fluke. New England's a better team. New England's a team that is definitely capable of whooping many teams in the league right now by at least 10. I'm going to go with Hunter Henry as my player to watch here. Big target for him. He's been reliable all year. Look for him to be another option this game. Buffalo, New York. Never going to really try to fade Buffalo. Last week I did with the Eagles, but that was just in a situation where it was impossible to really defend like Buffalo's strengths. Now they play a team that just got walloped by the Patriots. And if you're talking about the two best teams in that division, I think even if Buffalo doesn't play all their guys, still going to be the better offense, absolutely. If Breece Hall does play this week, I think he's the only thing that's going to give the Bills trouble. But other than that, Buffalo's the better team. I think they win by a touchdown and some. Denver and the Chargers. I do believe Justin Herbert is resting this week. So we are going to go ahead and ride with Broncos country. For the main reason of I just don't think that offense has anything going on. We saw how much they struggled against the Texans, but not just against the Texans. That Chargers offense has struggled to put up points in any fashion literally through the entire year. Denver, however, finds ways to pull it out, and the Chargers defense is very sound. I do think that this is a game where they're not going to be able to put up enough points to really compete with whatever Denver might do. Player to watch going to be RJ Harvey. 5-game scoring streak for him. Very prominent role in that offense as we've seen ever since J.K. Dobbins went down. Not going to be any different for him this week. Washington, Philadelphia. You can't bet for Philadelphia right now, right? Josh Johnson, my fault. Coming out, doing his job, but ultimately nothing too convincing against an Eagles team that still just wants to, keep the reputation that they are the defending champs, right? So minus 4.5 should be something that should be decent for them. But I'm going to go Tank Bigsby here with, of course, Saquon out. Going to be kind of hard to really go for anything other than Devontae Smith or some other backup right now. But I definitely can't go for anything for Washington just because I think that Eagles defense did a great job of shutting down the Bills. Detroit, Chicago. Tough one. I almost wanted to go Chicago, my pick of the week. Talk about a revenge game here. Ben Johnson getting a chance to go against Campbell one more time after losing 51 to 20 something earlier in the year. Bears, big loss to the Niners, but nevertheless, in a very impressive game. Caleb Williams been on fire recently. I think that he's just seeing the field super well, finding the right plays. And honestly, this is a get right or get back game for Ben Johnson against a Lions team that has absolutely nothing to play for. So I'm going to go against Nico there against a Lions offense that is dangerous, but going to roll with the hot hand of the Bears. Last one here, wrapping it up. Kansas City, Las Vegas. What the fuck?
Press the poop game. We need it. We need to hear it.
Stupid.
We gotta hear
this
it.
This one is just stupid.
The poop game of the week.
This might be the big, out of every poop game we've had, this might be the poop games of poop games.
We're gonna see Kenny Pickett, try to throw the ball and just spike it into the ground again. Chris Olave, it's interesting. So I can't get a read on this game. That Kansas City defense still playing for pride right now. That offense playing for shits and giggles. But that Raiders team is playing to almost still be a team in the NFL. That being said, for this one, I am going to go with Kansas City. I just honestly think that they are a better unit, better coached unit for sure. And my player to watch, they're going to be Chris Olave. I think that, while he didn't do anything crazy against the Broncos, he did what he needed to. And if this is your quarterback rolling into a second start now, you got him a lot more time to get prepared against a team that has genuinely nothing to offer in the Raiders. So Chris Olave, absolutely going to have a 30 bomb this week. But definitely going to be much better. And the only player I would keep an eye on in this one. Sorry, mine ran a little bit longer than yours.
You had a little bit more dramatic pause, which I think you get a little bit of different sounds between the two of us. I don't know if you noticed, but I tried to drink water for as long. Once you started talking about the Dallas game, I said I was gonna drink water until you stopped talking, but I finished my water.
You have a big bathroom trip coming up in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got 2 waters in me right now. But before we go, little prop parlay here. I actually did not even put in the parlay like totals yet because I didn't actually see Brooklyn's last leg until now. So talk about it a little bit while I try to figure out what the three of our props equal out to.
Yeah, we can start with mine because Nick's not here, right?
Too soon.
Tampa Bay, right? Tampa Bay, right? Rolling with Carolina, and I think that's been the better team all year. And nevertheless, so I was going to go Baker Mayfield. I am going to go Baker Mayfield for my prop to watch. Rushing yards over 15.5. Currently at minus 130, so value-wise, it's something I'm erring on the safer side before that line kind of moves at all. He's hit that line in 9 of 16 total games and is also the ninth most sacked quarterback. I think that, we've seen it from the beginning of the season and then during his injury stopped, moving too much like that. But ever since of late, the guy's just been taken off, right?
Where are you finding 15.5?
I got it on Fanatics.
Oh, because DraftKings it's at 18.5.
Even then, I think that's something that he could clear. I mean, he's eclipsed 30 plus in multiple games this year. Against Carolina, last time they played, he had 49 alone. So I think that that Bucks offensive line isn't anything too crazy. He's a guy who likes to run. Like he sees an opportunity that plays over within 5 seconds. He's taking off and he's trying to get as much yards as possible, regardless of if he's about to get cracked. So I'm gonna go Baker Mayfield here over 15.5 rushing yards. If you can still grab that, maybe it moved. But yeah, has also covered that 6 out of his last 7 games. Not gonna do the joke.
I ended up just switching on DraftKings. Unless if you see that line, I mean, I jump at it now because clearly the books are disagreeing here. But if you took 15 plus rushing yards on DraftKings, it ends up being minus 164. So I'm including that for ours because I know, sorry Brooklyn, don't want to out you here, but Nick and I are Team DK. Not for hitting fans, but for using to bet on sports.
I got a bone to pick with DraftKings. I tried to upload a Visa gift card balance in there one time, and they're like, "We need to see the statements for that gift card." I'm like, "Motherfucker, I can't give you those. I've been banned from DraftKings for 2 years." So
I have personal beef with FanDuel because it was first time sign up. I
remember that.
I was at your place and I was trying to put down that you had to win your bet or to get your free account rewards. You just had to win any type of bet. Didn't matter what it was. We're in the middle of college football season. I put $5 down on Michigan when they were minus 3,000. It was $5 to win 5 and 10 cents. And it hit obviously. And then I didn't get any of my rewards and I spent 3 hours talking to FanDuel. And I just, at that point, I waved the white flag and I went back to Kevin Hart. But getting back to the props here, I'm going to go with Nick's here first. Nick is taking Caleb Williams to have 32 plus pass attempts. That's at minus 114. 9 out of his last 10, and he's currently averaging 35 pass attempts a game. So even though Nick thinks Chicago is going to win the game, if he thinks my script of Detroit has a good game, Caleb was forced to throw. I mean, regardless, it looks pretty safe here. I like the average of 35 and the hit rate here. I think of the three, I think mine's going to be the craziest risk-wise. I'm taking Shedeur Sanders over 194.5 passing yards, currently at minus 112. Granted, not too many games under his belt. He's only done this once in his career, but the Cincinnati defense has allowed this in 13 of their 16 games. With 2 of those games, still teams blowing them out by over 40 points. So the scenario is either Sanders has to throw because they're behind, or Sanders is going to throw because it's free regardless. But I do think Perfect Timing is going to have his best or one of his best games in his early NFL career. Put the 3 of those together, you get a parlay of plus 471.
Heard Perfect Timing more times than I think I should have in the last 3 weeks.
I mean, I've bet on the Browns 3 weeks in a row, so I've been screaming it.
Well, I will say Fanatics does not have any lines open for Caleb Williams passing attempts right now.
I find it so crazy to use Fanatics. Not a shot. I just think I don't know of anybody else that uses Fanatics.
To me, FanDuel has 0, or maybe they've added more boosts now, but they've had kind of just 0 benefit promotions on anything and nothing to give back. And they're in their parlay protection kind of sucks. And I like Fanatics because there's this fair play in the first. If anything happens in the first half, your bet gets voided. And every Friday they have a little like plinko action thing. Drop a ball, and if you get enough points from the ball drop, you get free fan cash. You can use that in bets. So kind of cool.
You're
They
kinda
keep it. They keep
advertising
it
for
fun. They
'em.
keep it.
I should low-key probably throw something in there because I've never made an account.
Could be our first sponsor. Who knows?
That'd be cool. That'd be cool. But parlays are done. Picks, props are done. Picks of the week are done. It's our last time talking about a full slate for a while, and I hope this is our best one yet. This would be good for the spreadsheet. Make sure to also check us out on social media. It's going to be like that _pod. But next few episodes, you're going to see some exciting things. Like, again, we're not going to be spending an hour and 40 minutes, being able to break down 16 different games. Only going to have about 6 next week to talk about. So that you're going to see some different style content, some more game style stuff, things that we've already posted on the social media but haven't necessarily included in the pod. So like that _pod for a little bit of a preview. But outside of that, 2026 is going to be our year, Brooklyn. What was that?
I wasn't muted. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't muted. I thought I was. Yeah, no, I hope so. And I'm excited with the NBA season rolling back, or with us about to approach the NBA season. Kind of seeing where that goes. But definitely a lot of fun football coming up in the playoffs. Definitely excited to cover it.
Perfect. We will see you guys next week with a whole lot of money in our pockets.
Please.